Hello and welcome to Uncovered, the podcast with your host, Jason Irving. Join me in a journey to understand what's truly happening in your world and the world around you. This is not about how you're living life on the surface. It's about what's truly driving you from under the covers. I'm going to take you on a journey to deeply uncover the reason why you are here, the ultimate purpose in your problems and the way that they have shaped your life up until now. See, I believe you have a purpose, and your problems are the highway towards ultimate realization of that journey towards freedom and the reconnection of your true self. I've been told I have a different spin on most things, and I'll be giving you my understanding of life, love, and what we're all here for, purpose. To get the best out of this podcast, drop what you already know so you can discover what's beyond you. So join me, let's play this game of life and bring on liberation, transformation, and change. Let's do this.
Hi Jason, how are you today?
Good, and how are you?
I'm good too, thank you. Welcome everyone. We are going to talk about focus drive today.
Yeah, so focus drive, if we don't have it, we get nowhere. Mm-hmm. So as a leader, you have to have enough power and strength inside of you to move in the direction that you want to move into as a leader. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people in the world hesitate, make excuses, create dramas.
Oh, who would do that?
Tell themselves reasons why they can't. Mm-hmm. And when you do this as a leader, you're not a leader, basically. You're creating a disastrous life. So as a leader, if you want to be really strong in the way that you want to approach your life, you have to have a focused drive and a clear direction that you want to go. Mm-hmm. So I know when I was taking people through the academy, there's a 5-year planner, and a lot of people would flip out. A plan, oh no! And I'm like, every person who is terrified of a plan, they've got very limited leadership qualities inside of themselves. Because they're getting terrified of what it's going to be like. So the clear understanding of this is really a real lack of personal responsibility, right? You have to have a determination and a goalpost you want to meet, even if you don't know where that is, guys, right? I remember when I wanted to be a healer, I didn't know what that looked like. I had focus drive, and that focus drive got me there, and I managed to make it happen. First couple of years I made quite a few excuses, then I pulled my finger out and really started. Had a bit of a psych ward moment in the middle of that as well. That sort of didn't help.
Yeah.
So the idea for this is, if you don't have this working well, there are people who are leaders who are absolute arsehole driven people. So this is where a lot of people can lose it psychologically, because they don't want to be like those focus drive authoritarian based leaders who are telling people what to do, how to do it, wringing everyone's neck and arms to force them into doing something through fear. So it's really important to know how to lead well with focus drive. So you could have blinkers on and not understand how you're affecting others and impacting others with the decisions that you are making. So it's like looking at life and saying, I want that thing. I don't care who or what is going to be impacted by my decision-making process. I'm going to have that focus drive to get myself there, no matter what.
And I guess it's also like you could be a really integral and great leader, but if you don't have any focus drive and like this kind of motivation at all to go somewhere, then that it's not going to do very much.
No, that's correct. And this is where, the biggest problem is the other side of this. Because everything that I'm doing, listeners, is about a connection to a very old ancient system called the Kabbalah. So focus drive is the pusher and the driver. So a lot of really, really good humanitarian-based leaders have a lot of humility, but it's not enough push. So they have all the integrity sitting through the humility. They've got this ability to communicate. They know what the right thing is. They're way too humble, and they know what to do, how to do it. They don't have enough push. And then you get the ones who are really pushy, and they don't have enough humility.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's kind of like finding the balance between as well.
Yeah, so there has to have a really good balance. So a lot of people say, and I know I've heard this lots and lots of times, and I do this. Just do it, and then you'll learn along the way. Mm-hmm. Right? It's a great model to focus on, because that's wise. I'm going to give this a shot, and then I'll get better at it. Because you can't be the expert straight away.
It's like filling the knowledge, like starting it, and then you'll see what questions you have along the way anyway. You're like, how does that work? And then you can fill those knowledge gaps rather than collecting all the knowledge before you even start.
That's right. I never would have created the Academy if I had to have all the awareness I needed to have as a leader to lead people. So I was running a very a hidden course for about 5 years before I ran the Academy, and no one knew it. I was hiding it because I just didn't want to actually lead exposed. So I had this group called the Diamonds, and they were basically, the diamonds was a metaphor for the never-ending connection to your soul, and the never-ending connection to yourself. So that was the reason why I had that name. And the thing is, I just I wasn't being a proper leader. I remember one day one of the guys came up to me and said, "I just love Wednesday nights." And I dropped. My stomach dropped to the floor. And because he was reliant on the nights to get through the week. And I realised I wasn't leading, I was actually having people rely on me.
Rather than like empowering them to lead their own lives.
Yeah, so that's how the Academy was born. I was, as a healer, was the same. People were coming to me to get the result, and now people are still love to get a little bit of inspiration from me, and I get that because leaders have a unique way of approaching and communicating something that can turn someone's life around. So I think the thing that I've been really missing a lot in my life is really strong focus drive, as far as successful showing up in the world. There's been so many people who have just, people have said I've got wisdom, I've got all this stuff to share. I've watched people just slide right past me. It's because they've got more focus drive.
Yeah, I think that's one of my weak points too. And that's like when you were talking in the beginning about the vision planner with a 5-year vision, that's like, that was me. It's becoming better now that I'm just taking a bit more responsibility in life, and that was the first time I ever felt comfortable actually putting one of those together, even if it's not like as specific as I always thought it had to be, but there's something to work towards.
Something to work towards. Yeah, I was talking to a couple of people this week about focus drive for as a woman in the world, and that it changes a bit. I said, well, for you need to have a plan to have kids in the picture from your plan of what you want to create in your life, because if you don't think children and what impact that's going to have on you as a leader, then you're missing the whole point, because you could end up going, I want this big thing, I'm going to create this massive thing, and then kids come in, women just change the way in which they want to approach, because they want to be more available as a mum. So it's knowing how to have that focus drive as a female to do it well, and how you're going to bring in children into your leadership, because as a female, mums have the most important role to change this human race, mothering. If you don't lead well as a mum, the kids get a rough deal as kids.
That's a really good point, like to look at leadership like as well. Because like people think, oh, I'm not a leader, like I'm not leading a team, or I'm not doing all these things. But if you have kids, you are a leader already. You're leading your children. Yeah, and the mother role is the most important role that exists, because they're coming out of your body. How you think, how you feel. The science has proven that cellular information comes to the child from how you are feeling about yourself when they're in the womb. All of that from
from 0 to 7. Steiner education talks about how kids are more astral, or they're not in their bodies yet, so they're collectors of data. So as a leader at home, this is so important that you learn to model your behaviours as a mum. Right, so mums are the most important leaders, in my opinion, on this planet, full stop.
Cool, that's really, really cool.
Right, and so you have to know how to have that focus drive as a mum to put yourself in the forefront. Imagine if mums just put themselves in the bottom of the pile, which I worked on for years. Mums that become mums, they're not important. They're looking after everybody else except themselves. Imagine having daughters doing this continually over time. So as a mum, to have that focus drive, having independence, having that connection to what you value and what you want to do in your life, gives your daughters the opportunity to say, I can say yes to.
And I don't just have to do everything for everyone else. That's
right. And so to have that, you have to have that focus drive for an independent world as a mother. I think this is really, really important. So leadership, guys, is not just coming from looking after hundreds of people. It comes down to your individual drivers. And what are your drivers? Right, so one of the things that's really important to me, and I don't get this right all the time, sometimes I'm really not there for my kids, I feel personally, being a dad, right? So it's what drivers do you have as a person, and where do you place them, right? Because remember, there's individual and others, like leading a team. And, so for me, I run the academy. I've created all the content, so people who are working for us, I have to lead you guys. Then I've got leading the academy curriculum and how it works, and then there's Dad Me and how I lead there.
Yeah, and you are like very much the same in all areas, aren't you?
Well, I try to be. It's not always easy. I mean, I'm not always providing deep conversations with my kids.
Yeah.
But I am very, very focused, and I try to be as focused as I can. And this is one of the hard things for me, because I can be up in the air sometimes, not grounded. So I struggle with this quite a bit, being grounded and solid in the world. And I have so many things that I want to do. So I can get lost in all of those things. So if you're one of those people who struggles with making a decision to follow through on something, on tasks, I'm one of those people who could have 4 or 5 things I want to do at the same time.
And then don't do them properly? Or?
Yeah, don't do them as well as I could. And it's my type of personality. I have that want to do many things at the same time. So it really comes down to knowing how to get your drivers working. I mean, I work hard so I can get through doing lots of things at the same time. It's not necessarily my biggest, it's probably where I fall in this model the most, if I think about myself as a leader. So this is where if you've got this as your strong point, then you go really far in the world.
Which is good.
Which is good. So if you really want to lead and lead a lot of people and be very, very successful, focus drive is the key ingredient to getting yourself there. If you only have that, and you're missing the humility and the integrity, then you're not going to be the best leader humanly possible.
Yeah, that's for sure. And what's the way that you kind of have worked on creating more of that focus drive in your life? Because you say now you're a bit in that.
Well, my biggest failing for me is I don't consider myself that much. So that's been my biggest failing as far as focus drive is concerned. So where I've gotten my driver from, I had this amazing drive to become a healer, and I did that. When I started the academy and my later years, my focus drive has actually become more related to my children and more related to my wife, Anya. Anya's got drive. She likes things. I'm not really a thing-based person, so she's got a really strong driver for having nice things. I couldn't care where I lived. She likes living in a nice place. So it's really, really different. So her drivers are really strong. So my wife has got a lot of focus drive. And so she pushes me in a really sometimes hard way for me, because my self-esteem has had to push. I've had to push myself to my limits with my self-esteem. And then I look at my kids and I think, well, I don't want them to be in a position to say, oh, it's too hard, I don't want to give it a shot. So I look at them every day and think, I've got to get up for them if I can't get up for me.
That's really, really good. So you're actually using that, like, thing that you're doing, like putting, you know, like not regarding considering yourself so much, but like actually using this to actually move your life forward.
Yeah.
By like focusing on your kids and your wife.
Yeah, so listeners, if you're in that place where you're a little bit like me, you don't have that pushy part of you that needs to give yourself the fanfare or, you know, chest beat yourself, and if you're not really built that way, maybe through self-esteem or a bit of shyness, or you don't have that that real oomph, or you don't think you're good enough, you know, I run that still. Look at the people around you. I think that's a good focus drive that you can have. So my drivers are my kids. You know, I'm 50 now, and I want to see how far I can stretch myself in the world, while also being the best dad I can be, and making sure I've got really good balance in the way that I approach life. And that's not always easy when you run a business yourself.
Oh yeah, lots to do.
Yeah, there's always a lot to do, so you have to have a plan. And look, I'm lucky. I've got people who help drive me and help push me in business as well. So it's really important to have people who can push you and push you beyond where you think you can go as well, who have maybe succeeded on a financial level more than you have, and taking advice from them about what you can do and how you can leverage what you know, and how you can make it better and share more of it.
Awesome. And what about the opposite? If people have a lot of focus drive but don't like find themselves like not having, you know, that much maybe humility or like integrity, or becoming a little bit like just too focused on just go.
Well, a lot of the people who are focused with just that focus drive, they're never happy. So they have to have a disaster, a natural born disaster, to actually snap themselves out of it and actually look at, am I actually really happy, or am I chasing an endorphin kick through success? So a lot of those people who are in leadership, they don't have enough time to sit, to ponder. They won't be listening to this podcast.
Okay, so sorry, we can't help you then if you don't listen to
they won't be listening so much because they're driven so far. And quite often, like, there's a lady in our academy who ended up with cancer and is very, very driven, that she had to stop. You know, we helped her get rid of the cancer and get her drive back, but naturally driven woman. And she the only reason why she met our academy was through cancer. So sometimes the health drops, and it becomes a forced thing for some people that they have to do some personal development to actually find out, well, how can they actually understand what they're doing so they can change their life. And the cool thing is that she created her health as a project, right? So I knew that she'd be well because she had the drive to put her energy into getting well. And she took my advice and made it happen. You know, so I think this is really, really important. If you're that person that is driven way too much, and you've found my podcast because someone else told you about it, please make sure that you're that you find what's going to make you happy under the covers, and this comes down to personal development. A lot of people are searching through self-esteem through driven movement.
Because you feel good. You're like, I have achieved all these things, and so now I must be kind of good. Yeah.
So why would I do anything different? I remember a guy. I said to him, his brother died. And I looked at him and we were having a bit of a chat about a few things. And I said, what if you couldn't help people the way you did right now? He didn't know what to say. Because what if it was taken away? And that's where that focus drive can happen. We can end up having people who are elite athletes break their knee and they can't actually play sport again. So elite athletes end up with a lesson. What do they do after sport? Right? A lot of them actually identify as a sports person and they've got nothing behind them afterwards, so they end up becoming addicted alcoholics, addicted to some sort of drugs because they don't have a game plan after their sport.
Yeah, that can be challenging. That's what I think we talked about this before on the podcast too. It's like, don't just have like the one thing that gives you kind of that, fulfillment and that you're like passionate about. Like, have different things, because like you said, you could break your leg tomorrow. You can't run anymore if running's your thing, or you could get a disease and be blind or something like that. And then you can't see certain things if that's one of your things. So I guess it's just like a selection of diversifying.
Yeah, and having that diversity is really, really important. You need to have an arrow where you want to go, but if you've just got that one thing that's going to make you happy, then you've got major problems. So let's say we focus in the academy of 6 areas of life. So let's say we've got purpose, which is your work, friends, family, health, finances
and intimate relationships.
So if quite often we'll be weak, we'll be driven with a couple of them and we'll be weak on the others. And so we've got to do some development on the other ones, because you're going to let's say all your focus is work and you created a really shitty relationship with a partner, you're with someone, or you're single. Right, so you're going to find you're not going to be happy, and the only thing that's going to make you happy is going to work. And I remember doing this when I was working, and I wasn't in a happy relationship. I was just going to work because it was the only place that made me feel happy. So that can be a real challenge, to know how to make sure that we have that focus drive in a few places, as you said. Super, super important. And if we don't, we end up having trouble. So we've got to learn how to get this right, and I think this is probably the most, out of all of the leadership model, the most powerful and also the most problematic.
Because you can easily get out of balance with that one, I guess.
It's the easiest one to get out of balance. I know lots of people who have sacrificed so many things for their work and they don't have balance, right? So for me, out of those particular areas, friends is not a big one for me. That I sort of don't have my drivers focused on friends as much.
Yeah, same with me. And
so that's a weak area for me. But what the friends that I do have, I appreciate. But I'm one of those people that if you want quality time with me as a friend, I'm not your friend.
Yeah.
People have to be really, all my friends who are really good with me, they know that when we see each other, we see each other. But when we don't, there's no drag or pull. I haven't seen you for ages. This means we're not good friends. So all my friends are the same like that. They're really happy to catch up when we do catch up. So I think that's about it for Focus Drive.
Awesome. Thank you so much for today. That was really interesting and good to look at both sides as well.
Yeah, I think it's really, really important. So thanks for listening, guys. Hope you like this one. Thanks so much for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate you, and we really appreciate your time, because time is so valuable. What we'd love you guys to do, if you like this podcast, if you could share it with your friends, and Also, our website address for the podcast is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademypodcast.com. Our website is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademy.com. We have a free Facebook group called Wellness Leadership Evolution, so search for that. I'd love it if you could add me as a friend on Facebook. I don't buy it, so add me as a friend. And if you want some help and you would really like some support from us in the Academy, jump in. We have a process. You can do a break-in call to connect in with us. We do small courses. We have lots of things that we share. So we'd love the opportunity to give you a chance to change your life and turn it into a free one. You are one transformation away from change. Come and catch up.